a different song.
That's fine, folks.
This was, I think, supposed to be originally a Kansas. So excited to have her. Amanda Litman is the co-founder and president of Run for Something. She's a writer, a speaker, an all-around awesome lady. And she's signed up, just her recent activity, has signed up over 200,000 young people. Corey, Brittany, we've got Dr. Sharon down in the listening lounge, Alyssa's here, and Sabine, Stephanie, and passing it to you, Eric.
So I need to give okay, great. I think that we've got it also on.
Keep in mind, Eric has for coming in on a Zoom that is separate from this room, so he's trying to make the connection on that end. And Lo, I just put a link to her that tells about her and her mission in the book, so people can check that out. We're kind of waiting to connect in between chatting here. So yes, and the last one, Eric, you tell me when you're ready to go live with her.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so let's just test to make sure that everyone can hear Amanda. So Amanda, if you could unmute and say something, that would be great.
So excited to be having this conversation. Let me know if you can hear me.
Can people hear Amanda?
No.
Okay, I just realized that we're going to do the low. Okay, one more time, Amanda.
Can you hear me now? I'm really excited to be here and
Yes,
to be having this chat.
Yep, good.
So I want to introduce Amanda Litman, who is a hero of mine because, as I understand it, and please correct anything I get wrong, it was, I think, after the 2016 election, her response to Donald Trump winning was to build a nonprofit and get hundreds of thousands of people to run for office, almost none of whom would have run without the inspiration of her group, which is just a wild level of organizing that if someone had told me this was their plan, I would have chuckled and I said, look, you're not going to succeed at that. You might do something really good. It's worth trying, but that just seems like a ridiculous level of success. We also have a co-host on James. How do you pronounce your last name?
McCaffrey.
So James here is one of the team at Harvard who has successfully gotten 300-ish people to sign up to stiffen the backbone of Harvard administration, to keep Harvard as an independent institution, not run by the White House. So he'll be asking some questions too, and it'll all be coming through my Clubhouse ID because we're in Zoom and we're on the YouTube channel Life, Light, and Curious. So Amanda, why don't you talk a little bit about your background and how you got here?
Eric, James, I am so delighted to be here. So my name is Amanda Litman. I'm the co-founder and president of Run for Something, as you said. I'm also the author of 2 books. I was originally born and raised in Virginia. I've always loved politics. It's the only thing I've ever known. I went to Northwestern University for college, where I studied American Studies with a focus on gender and politics. Wrote my thesis about women running for office against other women and how that changed gender performance in TV ads. So been on brand my whole life. My senior year of college, I got an internship on the Obama campaign doing online fundraising. Was hired about a week before I graduated and stuck through that campaign through to election day, which we won. Love that. I then stayed and worked for Organizing for Action, which was President Obama's nonprofit that did grassroots organizing. Again, I was doing online fundraising and volunteer recruitment. I moved to Florida in 2014 to do 10 months on the Charlie Christopher governor race. This was a really hard midterm cycle. Democrats basically lost all over the place. We came within 1 percentage point of winning the governorship after our opponent, now Senator Rick Scott, spent $13 million of his own dollars on TV in the final 2 weeks. We lost and I went to Disney World, which was okay, I guess. I then moved to New York to work for Secretary Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. I was Hillary's email director doing, again, online fundraising, volunteer recruitment, and digital organizing. And I did that for 2 years. And it was a privilege and really, really hard. And as many of you might recall, we lost. And that was awful. About a week after Election Day, as Eric noted, I started hearing from friends I'd gone to high school and college with. Hey, Amanda, I'm a public school teacher in Chicago. Seems like if Trump can be president, anybody can do this. What do I do if I want to run for office? And at the time, if you were young and newly excited about politics and you wanted to do more than vote and more than volunteer, there was nowhere you could go that would answer your call. And that to me felt like a symptom of really big problems, both in our democracy and in the Democratic Party. So I reached out to a whole bunch of people with an idea. What if we solved this problem? What if we created an on-ramp for people who might want to run for office and have nowhere to go? One of those folks became my co-founder, an operative named Ross Morales Ricetto. We wrote a plan, we built a website, and launched Run for Something on Trump's inauguration day, his first one, thinking this would be really small. We'd get 100 people in the first year. Eric, to your point, many of the people I spoke to when we started it did indeed laugh at us. They said, nice idea, good Godspeed. We had 1,000 people sign up in the first week. And as of today, we're up to more than 220,000 young people all across the country who've raised their hands to say they want to run, including nearly 60,000 who have signed up just since the 2024 election and 10,000 who signed up in the last 2 weeks since Mamdani won the New York City mayoral primary. There is a surge of new folks running for office. Run for Something has been a core part of the generational tipping change.
I have to ask you to pause for a moment.
Yeah.
James, unmute for a moment. Can we all just have a round of applause for 10,000 people?
Back here in the we're behind our microphones going, hold on, take a breath.
I
100%, that was a lot.
10,000 people have signed up just since the mayoral race.
10,000
Oh my God, that is just badass.
It makes me buzz with hope and excitement.
Me too. It is really, I think, powerful because it's mostly young people, all 50 states, who are saying if he can win, if he can take on the establishment, so can I. I think that is what is the most powerful thing we have seen. And, Run for Something is here for them. We help people go from maybe I want to run all the way through to on the ballot, running strong campaigns. We have an endorsement program that winnows it down to the real all-stars. And then we've helped elect more than 1,549 states everywhere except Idaho. It's all millennials and Gen Z, mostly women, mostly people of color, about a quarter LGBTQ plus leaders.
Wow.
That's incredible. I'm stunned into silence, and that doesn't occur often.
James, why don't you ask a question, James?
Yeah, for sure. So as you've been saying, Run for Something has really helped a lot of people. And I'm curious to hear, like, what do you see as the common themes that have been calling people into this moment to stand up and want to do something?
I think it's a couple of things. The same issues that we've been hearing about for the last 8 years continue to be top of mind. Cost of housing, cost of childcare, affordability, healthcare more broadly, and I would include in that like abortion access and reproductive health care, gender affirming care, all of the different ways in which people get the care they need. In particular, this year, we are seeing two things that we haven't heard as much in years past. One is I want to fight. If they're not going to fight for my community, if they're not going to fight for me, then I need to fight for me. I think that is an indication of where the party is at and where our leadership is and where young people want them to be. The second is I'm not going to wait my turn. We have not heard that as much in years past, and that has been a refrain of the 2025 sort of new pipeline growth of I am tired of being told to get in line. Like I'm over it. I think that is a really powerful indicator.
That's fascinating. Eric? Eric? Sorry. You want me to take the next question?
Oh, actually, we just got a question from Clubhouse. Would you explain, Amanda, what get in line normally would mean?
I would be delighted. So traditional candidate recruitment, and this was really going back to like 90s, early 2000s, was done through a mix of unions, of state party chairs, of incumbents picking their successor. I would say it's
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We just had a technical glitch. That is totally my fault. Could you start again with answering this question about what is this typical way in line mechanism?
Yeah, of course. So candidate recruitment historically has been done by a mix of unions, state parties, incumbents picking their successors, by gatekeepers deciding who the next candidate was going to be. It wasn't, you would not self-identify as someone who would run for office. You would be asked to run, and that is how you would get into the ballot. The machine really existed. I would say in the last 25 years, that has been degraded pretty substantially, and that degradation has been on warp speed in the last 8, really since Run for Something came into the forefront. In particular, in the last 2-ish years, young people who've stepped up to run for office have been told by those gatekeepers who think they still have power, but do not, that it's not your time. You're not the chosen candidate. You're not the one we think can win. You're not the one who should run. We're going to make it really hard for you if you do. We're going to make it hard for you to hire staff, hard for you to raise money. We're going to limit your access to the voter file. We're going to try and get in your way using, whatever levers of power we can. They would do things like challenge their petition signatures when they would apply to get on the ballot, that kind of thing. What we have also seen in the past couple of years is that that stuff doesn't really work anymore. Like the establishment such that it is not as powerful as it used to be. Proof point here, a 33-year-old state assembly member just took on, what, $30 million in super PAC money, along with every New York City establishment donor and operative, and won in the mayoral election because the machine is no longer them, it's us. I think hearing candidates say, like, I'm not waiting in line.
I'm so glad that Alyssa asked that question because I didn't understand it either until you explained it so thoroughly. And I have to tell you that just all of this is, see, when you think that things are really desperate and in despair, you look to the youth. That's what I was told when all this happened. Look to the youth, and we can win. I was once told by somebody too, oh no, that person has the money. They'll definitely beat that other candidate. Well, for a change, my candidate did win. They didn't have the more money. And I looked at them and I said, no, it's the hard work and effort and everybody pulling their share and getting involved. That's what made this happen. And that's what you're doing. I can't even thank you enough for all the work that you've done.
Thank you for saying that. I think the thing that really is important to name for folks is the machine thinks it's powerful because it thinks it can move people. It cannot. No more. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to operate. Maybe they have money, but actually money can't buy much anymore. I assume I'm allowed to curse here. Like, they don't know shit about shit. They don't know who can win. They don't know what voters want anymore. They're not in touch with it, with the normal people. Candidates who are can take them on and win.
That's fascinating. So I'm curious, I think a lot of people will say that like it's good to have youth running for office and stuff like that. But I guess I'm curious about what do you think that the younger generation and these younger change makers are going to do better than the last? And why is that essential that they're able to sit at the table, do you think?
Well, I think part of it is that young people experience the world very differently. Like they experienced inflation at a higher rate than older folks, just based on the way in which our money moves around. You know, most of us do not feel like we can buy homes or will ever be able to buy homes. We are renters and therefore at the whims of inflation more. Um, we're experiencing the higher education crisis, as you all know, more directly. We're experiencing the childcare crisis more directly. I have 2 little kids, and the amount of money I spend in daycare any month would be a down payment for a home, but instead it's going to the lovely women who care for my children that allow me to work. It is so important to have young voices in the room. I would never say that a government should be exclusively people under 35 or 40, but it also shouldn't exclusively be people over the age of 70. And right now, in a lot of spaces, it is. The second thing that I think is really important is that if you came up sort of in politics really before 2008, but especially before 2016, you still think of the Republican Party as one in which the fever is going to break. You still consider that this is the party of John McCain or Mitt Romney or even George W. Bush. It is not. It is Trump's Republican Party all the way down. We see this in state legislators and school boards and city councils too. And if you are not clear-eyed about who our opponent is on the other side of the table, the fact that these are not good faith partners in governance, these are not people who actually want to get things done for the community. They want power for the sake of power and they want to burn it down. If you are not clear about that, you cannot effectively govern in this moment because you don't know who you're working with. And that is the thing that I think we have seen, especially among our members of Congress in particular right now, is that these older leaders fundamentally do not understand who they're dealing with. They think that they can still be collegial. Collegiality is out the window when we're talking about human rights violations. It's out the window when we're talking about mass firings. It's just not acceptable anymore.
There's no law and order.
There's no law and order. And like, you can't pretend that there's the way things were even 5 years ago is not the way things are today. And if we pretend that we have to play by the same rules, we are going to get screwed. And so much harm will come. The stakes are too high to pretend otherwise.
Yeah, that's really interesting context to mention just the difference of the Republican Party and also the difference in perspectives of how we grew up, because I definitely agree with that as a student right now. Like it's very different talking to somebody in my peer group compared to somebody 20 years older who's like not seeing what's happening in the world. So one question I have on when we're in charge, it kind of takes a deep dive into how the next generation of leaders can navigate their roles as leaders. What takeaways? For me, I helped co-found a group called Students for Freedom on Harvard's campus that has been pushing Harvard to stand up. We've hosted several rallies. We've done the sign-on letter that Eric mentioned, along with many other actions, and just trying to learn how to lead on our campus and learn how to work with other people and put a good example for others to follow. So what takeaways do you think our student leaders here and other students can walk away from the book with?
So When We're in Charge is really the first book that I couldn't find it, so I wrote it. It's a guidebook for leadership for millennials and Gen Z. So it's for you. I hope you pick up a copy. It's also on Spotify Premium. You can go listen right now. It is about how to lead in this moment in a way that is values driven, authentic, but with boundaries, effective. Most important thing is effective, and in a way that lets people be people first and like workers or team members second. I think any one of us who's ever had a bad boss knows how soul crushing it can be. Like if you've ever worked with someone or been under a team or been led by someone who's just like not good at it, you feel like you are wasting your time. You end the day kind of like bummed, like drained. It makes you a worse partner, a worse friend, a worse citizen because you don't have the time or the energy to like get involved or hang out. My hope is that people who read or listen to the book can really come away with a plan on how to develop their own leadership style that feels both true to them and also gets things done. Because the most important thing when it comes to being a leader, and this is the thing I hope if you take away nothing else, is that being a leader is not about you, the person in charge. It's about the people you're leading and about the goal you're trying to accomplish. And sometimes that means shutting up. Sometimes that means speaking up, but sometimes that means shutting up. And understanding that self-regulation is part of leadership, because again, it's not about you, it's about your goal and your team, is such a powerful skill set that many leaders, it takes making that mistake to learn, and you don't have to make that mistake. You can make new mistakes. You don't have to make the old ones that the rest of us have already made. But I hope people pick up the book and take a look or a listen, because I've been told it's unlike any leadership book you've ever read before.
Can we get a little more
That'll be
concrete about this specific idea?
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell a story. Maybe one where you didn't do it in the way you would like to.
I'll tell you how I think about this all the time in my work. So Run for Something recruits and supports young, diverse leaders running for local office. We work with candidates in all 50 states in all kinds of races. And as the co-founder and president of the organization, I get quoted in the press all the time. It's fine. It's my job. Often, and I learned this the hard way, the random shit I tweet out or post on Blue Sky or put on Instagram in the middle of like making dinner will end up in a New York Times article. Whoops. That means that I have to be really thoughtful about how I am engaging in these spaces. Because I don't just represent me, I represent the thousands of candidates we endorse. And if I say something or post something that could undermine one of their races, that could then let one of their opponents put that on a mailer and say, you know, Jane Doe running for school board endorsed by Run for Something, whose president said blah, 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 blah. This is not a hypothetical. This is a thing that happened. I've personally never been that silly, but like this is a thing that happened for many of our candidates in 2020 when some other endorsing groups would make statements around, in particular, this was the conversation around police brutality, and then Republicans would use it to attack them when it was not actually the organization's mission to talk about police brutality. It wasn't. This is something that is so hard to learn because you want to tackle every possible issue. You want to speak up about every possible injustice. But it's not, it can be important and right, but not right for us and our goals. And understanding and discerning the distinction between the two is leadership.
Could you go into more about like when is something right but not right for our goals? I think that's such a powerful idea.
You know,
Amanda, because I also have a problem with that. Sometimes being careful with what I say, and I have to learn from that.
I have been thinking the same thing, that I need to be more thoughtful in what I post, because I've been getting a lot of negative reaction, and I don't want to constantly be negative, but everything is wrong. So a new way to approach that, and AI has helped a little bit. Thank you, Eric.
I think it's being really intentional and clear about what you're trying to accomplish and understanding that sometimes you can undermine that end goal as part of if you aren't thoughtful. And that's not to say that you shouldn't speak out on things. But like as a leader, my job is not to care for myself or my ego. My job is to care for the whole. My job is to care for our goals. One day, when I no longer do this job, I can say whatever I want. Right now I do. And I have a responsibility to my team and to the people I pay and to the organization I run to represent us well. I think when and I write through this in the book on like, especially the social media, which is where so many of these landmines are. When you are really clear about who you are and the shape, like the sort of shape you hold as a person, and really clear about what you need to accomplish, and really clear about how you need to show up for your team, the overlap of those three things can help you form what I call a responsibly authentic leadership persona. I'm not saying don't be yourself. I'm saying be yourself carefully. Maybe not even carefully. Be yourself intentionally. I'll give you another personal example. And I will say, if you follow me on Instagram or here, follow me on Instagram, you will see posts about Run for Something. You'll see posts about my books. You will see on Instagram stories, I share the like dirty romance novels I'm reading and occasionally like the shows that my husband and I go see. That's all me. It's very much all me. You will never see my kids on there. The fact that I am not showing you my kids does not mean it is not my authentic self. It's just not my full self. And there's a difference.
Right.
I agree.
100%.
I've heard I've heard the following thing said only very recently, and it may show a lack of insight that this is only, for me, an idea that showed up in the last year or so, that a lot of the agenda of, I'll call it the Blue Coalition, actually emanates from a handful of nonprofit organizations who are themselves not membership organizations. The one I love and know the best is the Brennan Center for Justice. And so I'm thinking an example of this is rightfully the Brennan Center is out there helping people understand that voter ID laws do not increase the accuracy of elections. But this is something most people, even Democrats, do not understand. And we do not do a good job explaining to them. So it seems like, oh, well, Democrats don't really care about election integrity. And so, like, when you have an agenda that is kind of invented, according to one commentator, on a bunch of Zoom meetings in which there's kind of log rolling going on between these groups, and then you end up with a Democratic Party where some firefighter in Des Moines doesn't feel represented, doesn't feel that the blue team is fighting for them. Like, is this part of the problem, that we've got these groups who are each one well-intentioned, doing good research, but they're all focused on like just trans rights or just this or just, and so we end up with this ball of agenda that doesn't necessarily capture, for example, like working, like in these meetings, somebody said, there's probably more people with 2 PhDs than there are with people with no undergraduate degree. Is this making any sense? You know much more about this world, I think, than I do.
It does. And, criticism of the groups, as they are called, among a particular subset of pundits, among a particular subset of pundits is like very trendy. I think that misplaces the blame. Yes, I do think that there are organizations that fight for groups without speaking for them, or fight for communities without speaking for communities. That's certainly true. And that is on the politician to discern, not on the group to explain. Candidates and politicians have agency here. They can listen to what an organization tells them or what a think tank puts in front of them and say, you know what, I don't think that's where my constituents are. Or, you know what, I don't think that, maybe that would be good on face value, but that might be further than where they are in public opinion. And I'm not ready to stake that out. I got to be where my people are. Or alternatively, they might agree with them and be willing to take the risk. I think this is something similarly people like to blame consultants and focus groups and poll testing. And yeah, we definitely do too much of all of those things. But again, the responsibility at the end of the day for all of the decisions being made in a campaign is with the candidate. If you want better Democratic campaigns, if you want better Democratic messaging, if you want better leaders who can show up and articulate and tell a story and put forward a vision, the thing you change is the people running. If the candidate is the raw ingredient, in the same way that you want a better dinner, you get the best possible produce. You get the most fresh meat. I don't cook. Well, you get the best stuff you can find. Or you get the box of pasta off the back shelf at the corner store. One is going to taste better than the other. That doesn't necessarily mean that one is right or wrong, but one is going to taste better than the other, and your meal or your campaign is going to work a little bit better when the ingredients are better.
Love to talk to you more about this some other time, because there is like the brand of the blue team, which no one candidate is in control of. So, let's see here. So having co-founded Run for Something, you have firsthand experience with young leaders.
Yeah.
What lessons can you learn from those experiences? Can you share with us?
This is hard because it's hard, which is a really obvious thing to say, but I think it's important for new leaders especially to hear it over and over again. When you are taking on a position of power, when you are managing people, when you are running things, it's just point blank really difficult. And it's difficult both practically, the skills that you need to manage work and manage people's feelings and show up the way that you're supposed to is hard. It is also hard psychically and emotionally. If you are not, I write about this in the book, if you are not arming yourself with your integrity, if you are not like truly embodying what you believe, how you believe it should be run, the negative feedback that you are going to get, and you are going to get negative feedback, will suffocate you. It will strangle you. I think that the young leaders that we have worked with, especially the ones that have more public leadership roles, but even the ones who are just like managing small offices or small teams, the most popular politician, let's say that this exists, will have like what, a 65% approval rating, if that even exists anymore. Maybe there's a couple mayors who have that. That still means 35% of the people don't like them. That's if you are taking a stand and staking out a position and making the kinds of decisions you need to as a leader, some people aren't going to like it. That is part of doing business. And it is why you need to be sure that you are like aligned with yourself. You know, you're the expression like you're right with God, whatever, if you don't believe, whatever. But like, are you right with yourself? Can you sleep at night with the decisions you've made, knowing that they're in line with your integrity and your values? Because if you can, the negative feedback can sort of roll off your back.
James?
Yeah, so I guess I'm curious for more of a personal side of what would you say to somebody stepping up into a leadership role or trying to run who is worried that they might not be ready or should wait their turn like a bit longer? Like maybe there's another community leader who they respect, but maybe have some small problems with and stuff like that.
It's never going to be the perfect time to run. At some point, you just got to decide to jump in with both feet. And it is rare that someone is going to tap you on the shoulder and tell you that it's your time to run. So if you feel like this is the moment in which you are mentally, physically, financially, politically prepared to do it, get in. You're probably going to lose. Most first-time candidates lose. That's not a reflection of you as a person. Most first-time candidates lose. But it will grow you as a professional. It will develop your skills. It will teach you how to be a better communicator, a better leader. It will make you honestly a better community member. One of my favorite things I ever heard from a politician, Representative Sarah McBride, who's now a member of Congress, but was a Run for Something alum when she ran for state Senate, told me, if you want to fall in love with the place you live, run for office. Because it puts you in touch with your neighbors and your community in a way you've never been before. I think that's inspiring, and I think it's a good motivator that you do this because you believe that there is no alternative but.
Fascinating. Eric, you want to take the last question?
Lois, would you want to ask the next one?
I do want to ask the next one. And I have to say, I am so excited to ask it because for me, you've given me like so much hope for the future. So, as somebody who works directly with young people yourself, showing up to their communities, and you see them, because a lot of times I hear, well, if the youth of America were this, and I try to stop them and say, I have met a ton of youth that I feel totally inspired by how they see things and how they move forward in life. What makes you feel hopeful about observing these young people?
They are running for office because they're optimistic that change is possible. You can't do this as a pessimist. I mean, I feel that personally, but like, you can't do this if you think everything is doomed and the world is screwed and all hope is lost. You have to believe that a better way is out there and that we can make it happen if we put in the work. I think that optimism is contagious. To see folks willing to get in the fight, especially this year, and especially after the tragic shooting and assassinations in Minnesota of state legislators, to see that the risk that you could take if you run for office could put your life in jeopardy and those of your loved ones, and say, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm in awe of their bravery, and I'm so grateful for it, and I'm really proud that Run for Something is here to help them.
So we have James and his colleagues. I would love to think with you about the theory of change that people that are part of the, let's say, Harvard, MIT, other university communities. We know that the what are they called? The civil society groups are very important in holding a democracy together, especially in a moment like this. What would you be willing to share with James and his associates about your thinking about such things?
You know, I think what you guys are doing is so important. They need to hear from the most important constituents, the students, over and over and over again. I think being really clear about your demands and what that looks like and what you're trying to accomplish and not trying to do it all. I think this is something that often student activists in particular, really any activist on the left can get excited about, is like, we want justice for insert million like item list. That's really good, but that is not a demand someone can meet, so they're not even going to try. They're not going to take you seriously. Having really specific, concrete ways, and I didn't get a chance to look at your letter before I jumped on here, but having really concrete ways in which the university can say, yeah, we're taking you seriously, and here's what we're doing to show you, here's what we're doing to prove it, goes such a long way. Like, you want to treat it like any other organizing tactic, where you want to make it easy for them to say yes. When it's not necessarily like emotionally, it should be hard, but like, you want to make it easy for, if they're going to satisfy your demand, like, it's not going to require them to contort themselves into tiny little pieces. That, more so than anything else, can really set you up for success. And once you've gotten your easy yes, you can get the harder yes, because you've built the muscle for winning and you've proven a victory.
Mm. So you're arguing for also a baby steps orientation with organizing, that you get the first demand and that's not the last demand.
I wouldn't even describe it as baby steps. I think you can lay out your big vision of, like, this is what you want Harvard to do to prove that they've got your back. The first thing they could do, the bare minimum they could do, is XYZ. And that XYZ should be a thing that they could realistically do. I think this is where you get into messy, I'll say, like in other spaces of activism, where people will demand the moon. And it's like, well, I'm never going to give you the moon. So I'm not, like, you are not serious people. If you're asking for the moon, you're not serious people. Ask me for something I could reasonably give you. Or ask me for the moon, but if I'm not going to give you the moon, tell me what the first step to get to the moon is. Because I think you need a win. The win proves you have power. The win makes the courage contagious.
So James, is there a specific challenge that you folks are talking about that you feel comfortable sharing publicly?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate all of that. And I think it's helpful to hear that from you, who's seen it happen so many times across the country in so many different ways for so many different communities. It really makes that really powerful. So I appreciate that. And I guess maybe something I could ask you about is so I feel like at this point we have gotten a few baby steps, which is great. And the tough thing, I think, with the university is that they're being put under an enormous strain and enormous pressure by the Trump administration, with the international students getting their visas canceled, with the billions of dollars being cut. And so, like, you want to ask them, like, get all of our federal funding back, save the international students, and also don't give any concessions. And that's kind of, I think, like you're saying, shooting for the moon.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault that it's happening to them, but it's like trying to balance how to both support them through this effort and help the public realize why they're important, but also helping to push them in the right direction to give up as little as possible if they do have to give stuff up. So I guess, do you have advice on navigating that kind of difficult territory where it's not their fault that this is happening to them necessarily, but they have to make decisions,
I'm not an expert negotiator. I'm sure there are people who are, including many of your faculty, I assume. But I would say from my experience, like showing empathy for them, like this has to be hard. I would hope it is hard. I would hope it is hard. You could even use that as a tactic. Like, I know you care about the student body. Like, I know you love Harvard as much as I do. And I know this must be gut wrenching for you. I want to make this easier for you. You want to make it in their incentives to support, to like do what you're asking them to do. And you know that this is not their fault, but that doesn't mean it's not their problem. You know? And I think as time goes on, unfortunately, what you are probably going to have to do is make it between a rock and a hard place. And if the Trump administration is going to be the rock, the student body needs to be the hard place. And they should hopefully want to side with the student body. So
One brilliant organizer once said to me, we always know what we're going to do if we get a no.
Yep.
We cut the issue very cleanly, and we pick something that we're going to do that is actually going to be fun. Like in one case, this fellow, Buck Baggett, who was a really good organizer in San Francisco, said, we knew that we were going to build a huge revolving door. If they didn't put a cop in this place so that the drug dealers wouldn't be in this part of Bernal Heights, San Francisco, we knew we were going to build this huge revolving door in front of Police Plaza, and we were going to walk around through it, and we knew exactly what it was going to look like in the San Francisco Examiner. So we knew, like, so this, it's, I think, exactly what you're saying. So we have got people on Clubhouse, and we've given them very little opportunity to ask any questions. So Lois, can you pick some people to ask some questions?
Well, yeah. First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. Okay, we've got a bunch of people in the audience: Joanna, Double, Saeed, Ori, Sunil, and you. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate everybody being here. Sabine's here with Krishna, Jennifer, Ibiz, Ash, Jonathan. You've been listening. Stephanie, you've been here the whole time. Does anybody? I'd love to hear any thoughts at all, even if you don't have a question. Do you have something that thoughtful that you want to add to the conversation? Sabine, go ahead. Sabine is a friend of mine. Sabine, this is Eric, and this is also Amanda. Go ahead with your comment or your question, Sabine.
Hey, thank you, Lois. Yes, hi. Yes, sorry, I'm a little nervous, but I did, 14 minutes ago, I did put in the chat that I actually made a sticker with a fairy tale reference because I'm very passionate about fairy tales, but I wanted to, my grandma and I a while ago, and she has dementia now, but she and I came up with the perfect fairy tale that fits the current administration, and I turned it into a sticker with kind of like a little fun joke on it. So it says, and I don't use any names, but I know if you guys will know who I'm talking about. That guy's following is like the emperor's new clothes, only his entire kingdom is a nudist colony. That's the reason no small boy in the crowd who's smart enough to know right from wrong has called out that the most important man he knows about is blatantly streaking. And it's all metaphorical, of course, but that's the way I think of this country and not the country, the politics of what's going on right now.
Yeah, Amanda, we obviously are in a very. Go ahead, Lois.
Not Amanda, Sabine. Sabine, after you listened to Amanda and what she had to say, how are you feeling more? Do you feel more hopeful?
Yes, I do. I mean, what is it
something you would ever consider like doing or helping on getting involved in your area with
I'm not on social media at all. I don't do that, but I would. I mean, I live in North Tiverton, and I'm unaffiliated, neither Democrat nor Republican, but a lot of my neighbors are definitely right wing, and some of them have done terrible things to me, and in return, I kind of went insane around them, but that's all water under the bridge now. But I think if I were to spread the word to my friends and family. And I've already actually, one of my cousins' father, well, they live in Idaho and they have a very prestigious school. I spread the word to my cousin as soon as I heard about, I listened to what you guys were saying. So hopefully Idaho can get the word can be spread there. I'm trying my best.
I think a ripple, I think anytime you drop a pebble in a water, it makes a ripple and then the effect goes on and on. Go ahead, Eric, back to you.
Right. So she raises a really powerful point. This is a very weird period to be living through. You and your team are undoubtedly talking to people who are contending with, a breakdown in these basic rule of law. What do you have to share with us about how to contend with this emotionally, practically? Love to hear you think about that out loud.
As local as you can get the work, the better, is how I think about this. Alternatively, the way I often phrase it is like, only drink the poison you've got the antidote for. Being really thoughtful about the news you consume and the way in which you engage with it in order to focus on the things you can do in response. So, my personal example, I have to care about internal Democratic Party stuff because it's part of my work. I care deeply about New York City politics because I live in New York. I'm raising my kids here. I care deeply about, broadly speaking, what's happening in Congress, in part because it affects my work. There are lots of things happening in the world that I also care deeply about, but if I also consume all of the bad news about it, I will not be able to get out of bed in the morning. So I try and focus my time and my energy and my mental bandwidth on the poison in the forms of the news that I, as a Democratic operative, as a practitioner, as a New York City voter, have the antidote for in terms of local action or professional action. Again, that is not to say that other things aren't important. It's just as I think about how to preserve my ability to do this work for the long haul, that is one way to approach it.
That is key. And I want to commend you and congratulate you on that, because we need people like you healthy mentally and physically. So in order to keep that mental health, 100% same thing. I have stayed away from most news and I have picked a way to channel my energy into something that makes me feel better, not worse. So those are some of the ways that I've been able to help. Those exact ways that you talked about is just really, when those important issues will find you and you'll know about what you're supposed to know about, right? That's how I feel.
That's exactly right.
It's very
Anybody else on the stage? Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming and talking. I'm an activist organizer in Northern California and involved in, a lot of progressive groups. You probably know them all. But so we try to build the bench and try to get not only recruit people to run, but to get people to support them. So maybe you could talk about how important early money is for these candidates, early support. One thing that's coming to mind, there was a young man, he was 21, he decided to run for school board, high school board here, and one Indivisible chapter just adopted him, and they just wrote 5,000 postcards for him, and they started canvassing for him, donated to him, and he lost the first time, but he won the second time. So maybe you could talk about those elements, and is the Democratic Party just not going to do that for these new candidates at all? Is that what I'm hearing from you? Thank you.
The Democratic Party, as you think it exists, doesn't really. I think that's the secret. There is no "that was easy" button. There is no well-oiled machine that's running behind the scenes to support candidates. Maybe there's a county party that's got some people, but most folks don't join the party. They're outside of it. There's a reason that Run for Something has to exist, because there isn't somewhere you could go at the official institution of the DNC for sure, or the many of the state parties or county levels where if you want to run, especially if you want to run against an incumbent, that you can get the help you need. I think that is, it makes me laugh when people have like conspiracy theories about the Democratic Party rigging things. It's like, I promise you, if they were more competent, this is not how it would be going. It would not have functioned like this. Yes, there are ways they can screw things over, but like the conspiracy theorists assume a level of competency that just isn't there. I say this as a professional Democrat. That is why folks on the outside, grassroots activists, volunteers, people giving $5 and $10 whenever they can matter so much, because it is really important that if we want to see a different kind of leader, we get them behind them as early as we can. And you are right, early money is a whole ball game. It allows campaigns to plan, to grow, to do sustainable work. It helps organizations do the same. Early money or continued giving. $5 a month is incredibly helpful because it allows a campaign to know that they can count on you. Similar is true with organizations. So early money is the whole ballgame.
Great, thanks a lot. What about, okay, how about this? What about, one thing we also try to do is get new people to serve on boards, municipal boards, as a way of getting their feet wet. What do you think of that technique?
It's definitely a great idea. The more the better. Any possible way you can get people involved, better. More is better.
More is better. There's a question in the chat. Ibez asks, what are your thoughts on the value of being a precinct committee man-woman? Do you know what that question means? Because I don't.
I do. It means being part of your party staff or institution or structure and like enabling folks within your neighborhood. I think it's a great idea and we need more better people to do it. So if you feel excited by that opportunity and it meets your logistic requirements, go for it.
Good. That's a way to donate your time or volunteer is being on a precinct committee.
Mm-hmm.
The term I'm used to in New York is a precinct captain, to be the person that's kind of the lowest level person who is kind of tied into the county Democratic Party, who would be knocking on doors and making sure people get out to vote and they know who the candidates are and who else might want to volunteer for in various ways. That's
right. Precinct captain, district leader. There's lots of different titles for it, but it's basically sort of the foot soldier of the Democratic Party. And in a lot of places, they don't exist anymore, which is why the Democratic Party is not that powerful.
Given them in California, we don't have them. Maybe only one small little county. Another question, is what about, are most of the 200K plus people you recruited, are they Democrats or independents or what?
Almost all are somewhere on the Democrat spectrum. Because we work in all 50 states, so we have people who are great fits for Democrats in my neighborhood in Brooklyn and people who are serving on the Anchorage School Board in Alaska and everything in between.
All right, we're coming to the top of the hour and I want to be considerate of everybody's time. Anybody else have a question, a thought, something they want to share before we go? And Eric, I'm going to give you the wrap up before we close the room.
Well, as people are thinking about a question,
I see Paige flashing, but go ahead.
Why don't we just give Amanda another moment to talk about her 2 books, so people know about those, and then we can come back to Paige.
Great.
Thank you, Eric. That's so appreciated. So I've written 2 books. The first came out back in 2017. It's called Run for Something, a real talk guide to fixing the system yourself. It's a guide on how to run for office and the very nitty gritty minutia on how to do it, how to think about a campaign plan, how to navigate the party, really how to talk to voters about the issues you care about. So much of it is still applicable today, even if some of the details have changed. So I really encourage you to pick it up. The new book, When We're in Charge, came out just about 2 months ago. So it's widely available, including on Amazon, bookshop.org, Spotify, all of the places. And it's a guide for millennial and Gen Z leaders. think it's pretty good. And it's about work, it's about relationships, it's about community, it's about ambition. It is not a book about politics, except for in the sense it's about how we engage with each other. So if you like that, I hope you'll pick it up.
I'm going to pick that one up for sure.
So Paige,
Paige, did you want to go ahead? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank you, speakers, for being here to share your perspective and experience. And I have been inspired. I have been given some very thought about, and it's funny because I have just in the last couple of days been giving more thought to being more thoughtful with my posts and the way that I guess that I speak about this now, because it can be very difficult sometimes. So I just appreciate you and your words, and I'm feeling uplifted. So thank you.
Oh, and my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
great. Maybe you want to, if you do you have another 2 minutes? What do you have, Amanda?
I can stay for another minute or two, yeah.
So if you wanted to give people a little sense of if they decided they wanted to join the school board or whatever, what is the experience of contacting an organization and the resources you get? Do you want to spend that last few moments just helping people know what it means to be supported by Run for Something?
So if you are thinking about running for office, you go to runforwhat.net and you look up what office you might be able to run for. You join a conference call that we have every month or so, where we talk through the same basic questions every first-time candidate has. You'll then get added to the Run for Something community. It's an app with a bunch of different materials for you, guides on how to file, how to get on the ballot, how to think about your campaign plan. We've got a couple different tracks depending if you're running in the next year or the next 2 or 3 years. Thinking about civic engagement, building your profile, all the nitty gritty you might possibly need. Once you have filed to get on the ballot, especially if you're 40 or under, you can apply for Run for Something's endorsement. We have an endorsement application that's all public. That's where we do a value screen, a background check. We want to make sure that you are, one of the rising cream of the crop leaders across the country. We endorse about half the people who apply, and if you are endorsed, our team will work directly with you and your team. You need help getting access to the voter file? Great, we can help you with that. You need help prepping for a forum? We can help you with that too. We'll connect you to press, we'll connect you to funders if we can, we'll promote you across social media, and most importantly, we'll connect you to other candidates running for office, because the experience is very lonely, and we want to make sure that you have a community on your side. Endorsed candidates are who we track through to election day, and then we stick with them, win or lose, through to the rest of their careers.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Is that mind-blowing?
That is mind-blowing that you have at the touch of your fingers, which I pinned the link above. Okay, you guys just have to click on that. Save that link, because you never know. If you want to run for something today, maybe not. Do you want to run for something next year? Might be a different story. Might be different story 6 months from now. Take that link, throw it in your notes, and keep it, because it does take a little bit of the scary out of signing up or doing something like that, because right away you feel overwhelmed when you even consider it, because you're like, oh, I know how much is involved, and you've got to have you have to bring in money, and people get overwhelmed before they even get going.
That's right.
Well, thank you again, Amanda. And what you have created is utterly mind-blowing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me for this conversation. I really do appreciate that too.
And congratulations
Thank you so much,
again,
Amanda,
James.
we welcome you back anytime you want to come back in and bring us an update on what's happening. We'd love to hear it.
Thank you.
And Andrea Socorroso is very active on Clubhouse, so she sends her regards.
Oh, it's so nice to hear from them.
Awesome.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll wrap up the room for you, Eric, because I know you're trying to facilitate a Zoom as well. So I'm going to wrap the room up for Eric. Eric, if you wanted to go on mute, you certainly can do that. I just want to say a few things about the room. Just so you guys know, we're really trying to get this on a regular schedule. This room has been bumped around from different days, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, back to Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So we're really trying to keep it now that we're going to keep this room on Tuesdays, okay, at the same time. I think we're doing, Eric, are we doing 3 to 4 is the time on Tuesdays?
It was, if we're going back
You
to
can unmute for a
Tuesdays.
second and tell me. We'll work it out. But anyway, it's definitely going to be on a Tuesday afternoon, somewhere around 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern time. All right. So so be looking for it. Bring people in. Join the discussion. We do deep, different things every topic. Next week we might be doing deep canvassing and some tips about that. We've talked about different ways to restructure democracy by deliberative democracy approach. Things I had never even heard about until I had the room. So making people aware of all these different aspects, talking it up, sharing the information, bringing people into the replay. This is how we get things done. So that's my final thought. And I want to thank everybody who hung in. Thank you. There were some rather weird and not quite in touch with what the room was happening chats going on. So I deleted some of them. And just so, because for format purposes, we want to keep a tight ship on this. Sometimes we have a little more wiggle room with talking about, different issues or getting off track. But when we have a guest, we're going to try to stay on topic, both in the discussion that's on the stage and in the chat. So I appreciate everybody's help with that. Just a little housekeeping. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Anybody else want a final thought before we close the room? Thank you, Eric and Paige, for always being available. Stephanie, Jonathan, Abiz, Jennifer, Krishna, Connie, Miranda, Ori's been here the whole time. Saeed, Joanna, thanks for being here. Sevnan, Pierino, Rodney, if you came in late, check out the replay. It'll be ready shortly. All right, everybody, you can come unmute and say goodbye if you'd like. Goodbye. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Goodbye.